Mic check, mic check. What's going on? Welcome into episode 66 of the KZ Community Beat podcast on the all new KZ 1023, hosted by myself, Ross Martinez. And this week we welcome in from the Alzheimer's Association Illinois chapter, the walk manager of Decatur, Knox Warren, and Peoria Walk to End Alzheimer's, Amber Bowcott. Welcome in.
Hi, Ross. Thanks for having me.
We were talking about dogs off the mic.
Oh, we have so much personality in our dog.
Oh, you have a hot dog. I have a hot dog. Big question, though. Does ketchup go on hot dogs?
No. Mm-mm.
See, I'm from Chicago, born and raised, Southside.
Chicago dog.
Really, 6 blocks from White Sox, Comiskey. I put ketchup on my hot dog.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't.
I moved to Peoria. I'm no longer Chicagoan. Anyways.
Wrong.
Today, we are talking about this weekend's October 5th walk, Alzheimer's walk here in Peoria, right?
Yes.
So how long have you been involved with the organization itself?
So I started being a team captain of the Walk to End Alzheimer's in 2013. I was working at the hospital, then Proctor Hospital, and got involved then. So it's been about 11 years.
What got you involved? You were working at Proctor. What were you doing there?
Yeah, so I was doing rec therapy at Proctor Hospital. Before that, I was in Galesburg doing the same type of work, and I worked pretty much 60% of my patients had Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. So it just really filled my heart to work with them. It gets down to a simple, something so simple makes their day. And so every single day I would just try to top the day before. It's just kind of where my passion started, was in healthcare.
Just by giving back to the community and seeing people in need. It's interesting because you guys are tied in with our sister station, Super Hits. They show up and they promo and advertise the Alzheimer's Walk yearly. And when it came across my desk, I don't think I've talked about this much in the podcast, but my grandmother, she passed away in 2009, but she had Alzheimer's, diabetes, dementia, and pancreatic cancer. She got hit bad in the later years.
Oh, my goodness.
I never knew there was a difference between Alzheimer's and dementia.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When they said she had both, I'll be honest, I thought it was the same thing, like it was a collective name. So is there any chance you could explain to me the difference between both and how they impact individuals differently?
Yes, and you're not alone, Ross. A lot of people say, well, they don't have Alzheimer's, they have dementia, when honestly, they do have dementia. So dementia is an overarching term, like the term cancer. And then your next question, when someone has cancer, you ask what kind. So Alzheimer's would be the type of dementia that they have. And dementia it's a set of symptoms that affect functioning, cognitive, memory, the ability to carry out certain tasks the way that people used to. So Alzheimer's is more of the asking the same questions, unable to problem solve like they used to, things of that nature. So those set of symptoms are Alzheimer's, and the type they have dementia. So dementia is the overarching term for a memory issue.
Where does because I remember after my grandmother was diagnosed, there'd be times where it's cold winter. We're talking about below zero. And she'll walk out the house. This is before we ended up having her live with us. And she would walk out in her gown, thinking she was in Mexico. So my family's from Mexico. Mm. And we would walk out and see, like, Graham, hey, Abuelita, come back. Like, what's wrong? And as a kid at that time, it was really hard to really see that. So all your time working with patients that have Alzheimer's and dementia, how did you process seeing, I don't know if deterioration would be the right word per se, but the decline with the disease? Like how did you process that, I guess would be my question.
It's hard. It's really hard. And being a healthcare worker on the outside looking in, the emotional tie is different, I would say. So when we would have someone come in and we found out they were wandering and the police found them, or they were unsafe, whatever that would look like, it just tugs at your heart, because they aren't doing that intentionally, that it's a safety awareness that their brain is no longer able to give to them. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it, is the amyloid in the brain, which, going back to the science of it, Ross, is it's strangulating parts of the brain that give safety awareness, that affect your judgment and things like that. So that is That's why she did that, is because her brain no longer functioned the way it would, that said, it's freezing cold out here and I need more clothes. So that's where the breakdown happens, and it's really hard.
Does that also impact just, I guess, cognitive in a way? Or you're not able to perceive it's frigid cold outside, but in your mind you're thinking it's Mexico, as my grandmother thought.
Right. I think it starts with that, where she thinks she's in Mexico, and or she's trying to get there, and it's warm in Mexico. And then when you go outside, yes, it might feel cold, but still she had it in her brain she was going to Mexico, or she was in Mexico. And a lot of people think that way. They do. They can't process more than what the thought is at the time. And it causes a lot of challenges. And if anyone's listening, the listeners, they know, if they've had to deal with it, that it might be something like your grandma did, but it might also be something that's personal to them.
Yeah.
You know, I want to go home. You are home. Well, this isn't my home. They're thinking of the home they grew up in, or their home from their teens, or when they were first married, and you never know what home they're talking about.
It was tough. I remember living through it as a young kid. I think she was diagnosed when I was in high school, maybe. And some days were easier than most. We were able to make light of situations just to kind of bring up the spirits. There were certain things she would always fixate on, and I didn't know if that was like a commonality between a lot of patients that are suffering with Alzheimer's, whereas in her mind she thought my father didn't have a job, because when she met him, he was a teenager and he was unemployed. He was on the streets, hanging out like a young hooligan. But we're fast forwarding years later, and he's coming home. He was an electrician, engineer, crane operator, engineer. So he would come home greased up, and he would always egg her on, and be like, "Give me $20 to go find a job," and she would flip because she would think he's a bum, but he's literally covered in oil from work,
from working hard.
But like those small moments of, okay, at least you can see the fight in her. Where she's like, "No, get out of here. I'm not giving you $20.
Yeah,
you've always been a bum." But then you would have the flip of that, where we wake up in the morning, we sit down to give her oatmeal, and she can't speak, or for some reason she can't remember. I remember one time she forgot my mother's name, and she forgot who my mom was, and I remember seeing the look on her face. And have you seen that in your times working?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like what is that with different families where you see that moment and it's just, ooh.
It's just, you can feel it in your whole body, because you see the person who the person with the disease does not recognize, and it just wholeheartedly just rips your heart out, because it's ripping their heart out. And I think, unfortunately, the caregivers and family members become accustomed to that. But when they come into our office, a lot of times they say, "She doesn't know me anymore. She knows my brother, remembers my brother." And so that also causes it's hard. They remember my brother, but not me. But that, to them, I think, is kind of a milestone in the disease, when they have forgotten who their children or spouses are. And that's tough. But they remember, generally, those that have been in their life the longest. So the spouse and the children. Unfortunately, the grandchildren, their names sometimes can go first with their memory. And it's heartbreaking. It's very hard for families. That's just one challenge. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's kind of a keynote symptom as the disease progresses. And you did talk about your grandmother not being able, you said, to eat or speak.
There were times where it looked like she wanted to say some words, but it was just not mute, but more per se, she couldn't find the words in the moment. I remember looking at her like, "Hey, Graham," or in Spanish, "Abuelita," like trying to get her attention, and it just didn't come out.
Nothing. Yeah. That is common. The not speaking, difficulty swallowing, remembering words, using their language can in some cases become very simple. And that's because, again, I started to say earlier, the science of it, that amyloid plaque is in their brain and it's building, and it is affecting the parts of the brain that give them the ability to speak, that remind their brain and tell the rest of their body to swallow. And things like that can affect walking. We already talked about the judgment portion, but some do experience the swallowing and the speaking difficulties.
Interesting, because earlier in the week you sent me some key information points about the disease itself and how I had no idea people as young as in their 30s, around my age, have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are early detection signs? Somebody that's younger, because you know, when you think about Alzheimer's, you think somebody a little bit older in their life,
Mm-hmm.
a little more seasoned, I guess you would say.
Seasoned, I like that. Yeah, it's a lot of people see it as an old person's disease, you know, pardon my language, but it's not anymore. It's affecting people younger and younger every day. And so it's hard, I think, for people who know someone to see maybe it's a speech issue, or it's more than just I forgot the keys. You know, it's you've watched this, you've listened to this radio program for 40 years or 20 years and you can't remember what station to turn it. It's little symptoms like that that you would notice even in someone older. But I would say it could be a little more difficult to detect. But I think people that know their loved ones, maybe a child if it's their parent, or a spouse and it's their loved one, they're able to pick up on those changes. But I know a lot of people that come to our office question themselves. Oh, I don't know what that is, or they just, brush it off, and then it happens again and again. And unfortunately, in the meantime, they could have some sort of treatment now. The FDA-approved drugs, they're catching it earlier with early detection, and then also they can start these new FDA-approved drugs to slow the progression. And that is a whole new, we're in the era of treatment right now, and that's where the greatness lies with the Alzheimer's Association, is we're able to detect it earlier. Now we are, I was teasing this yesterday, we have a blood test that's coming out that can detect the amount of amyloid plaque in the brain before there are even symptoms, which to me is so cool. Yeah. Because you can, they can modify and watch those levels, and if they rise, then they may get to a certain level and start those treatments to slow the progression. Before, when I started at the association as part of the Walk to End Alzheimer's, we were just treating the symptoms. We didn't have a lot to go on. Proactive. Yeah, so that's the coolest thing I've seen since I've joined in 2013, and that's huge stuff in the last 11 years, more so than we've done so far.
You got to think that science is catching up to a point where now a lot of different doctors in the medical field have a lot more tools at their disposal to be preemptive rather than reactionary.
Yes.
And we're now entering, I think, a new age here in medicine where we're now able to provide, what's the name of the drug?
Oh, if you can say them, I'll give you $100, Ross.
Leqembi.
Yep.
I said that right?
Leqembi, you did. Try the other one.
Well, this is going to be a little more difficult. Donanemab.
Oh, close. Donanemab.
Oh, wow.
I like the flair you put on it. Donanemab.
So how far along in, they've been approved, so they're past the testing phase. Mm-hmm. So what research have they come up with so far that's been showing a lot of progress with those?
Right. So they do have a lot of promise because, as I mentioned, we were treating the symptoms, which there isn't much you can do. You're not slowing the progression to give them more memories and more time. You're just treating that day. But now with these drugs, there's a 41% slowing. The progression is 41% slower now because of the FDA-approved drugs. And yeah, that's huge. Because people are looking to, they want their loved ones there for special occasions, and they don't want this disease to go any faster than it needs to. And unfortunately, the progression is different in every person, and it also depends on outlying things, like if they get ill, if they have an infection, moving a person, locations, moving homes, downsizing, that can also kind of catapult it into another level.
Yeah.
So slowing the progression right away is key.
That's amazing. I mean, from my perspective in the story I have with my grandmother, and this would have went miles back in 2009. Mm-hmm. Like from 2009 to 2024, we're now getting pushed into 2025. If that was around back then, who would have known? But another thing is, we also didn't know that the Alzheimer's Association was also around back
exactly.
then.
And that what breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to know that people don't know we're here, and that's the point, is getting the word out, spreading awareness. doing those free education programs so that people know we're here. And unfortunately, sometimes with a new diagnosis, people don't send them to us. They say, we're sorry, we're so sorry. And then that's it. So we just want people to know our office is here in Peoria. We're open. If we're not there, you can give us a call and we will be there because we're out in the community. We're doing programs. We're spreading awareness. We're at health fairs, and we're talking about knowing the signs and being educated because knowledge is power. We also have a 1-800 helpline. You can call to find out where there's education going on, where there's a support group nearest you, and also other things like crucial conversations to have. Do you have to talk about taking the keys away? Do you have to approach your loved one that you're seeing the symptoms? So our helpline is absolute key. You are getting a master's level clinician who is there with you every step of the way, and they want to know, how are you? I called there recently and they asked, how are you, at the end of the call, which I thought was so cool. So that right there, if a doctor's office were to give that information out to someone just diagnosed, it would be life-changing. They can do so many things to help going forward.
It's a very touchy moment in life because I remember when they took my grandmother's keys away, the license. They wouldn't let it. You could see there's something that happens where you're like, my independency is kind of gone.
Yes.
Like what type of courses, programs do you offer to help specifically those moments besides just the helpline?
Right. So we have different programs. We have it's communication, which is absolutely key when you have someone that has any form of dementia. You have to get very creative. Your rationale has to go out the window because theirs has. It's a very irrational disease. We also have, which is really exciting, an empowered caregiver series. And I wanted to plug that if I could, Ross.
No, definitely.
We're going to start that on October, I believe it's 14th, and it's going to be held at our office at 614 West Glen Avenue in the evening from 6 to 7:30. And it talks about from the middle to late stages, if you're a caregiver, things, responsibilities and challenges that you may face, such as a conversation with taking the keys away or safety. Because they want to hold on to that independence as long as they could. And as you mentioned with your dad and your grandma, she thought that he was in the age of when he didn't have a job.
Bum.
The bum, yeah. So, you're my child and you're telling me that you're going to take my keys away? I don't think so. And actually, I have a personal story with that. I took my grandfather to go get his driver's license renewed. I think he turned 80. And so his brakes weren't working in his car. So I took him to practice in my car. The turn signals are in the same place. So are the lights, the windshield wipers. And he got there and just froze. And then he proceeded to call the DMV worker. I'm so sorry, wherever you are. A lot of names. And it was very, very embarrassing. And right then is when I knew.
But that's lashing out of anger. Not anger at them per se, but more as because I remember my grams. There were moments where she would be angry, but it's because you're losing your faculties in a way.
Yeah.
And your independence. I don't know about you, but if I want something to eat, I could go in my car right now and go get something.
Yep.
I don't have to check in with people. I'm fine. And I remember just, missing school one day because, hey, I can't work from home, kid. I need you there. So it's not being able to leave somebody alone and be independent on both sides of that coin is emotionally very monumental.
Mm-hmm. Very. And I think if you're on the caregiver side, you're thinking, how am I going to make this work? And right now we're seeing with the younger diagnosis, the sandwich caregivers who are caring for little children at home, and then they're also caring for maybe an aunt or an uncle or a parent that has it. And I have a great volunteer right now who she was a sandwich caregiver. Her morning started getting her children up, going to work, taking them to school, and then immediately after work, picking up her children and going to her mother's house. And, that is stressful day after day after day. And it's hard when there aren't any resources or you're in that in-between stage where you don't quite think they need to be somewhere or have someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But also, how do I cover this? If I don't have a large family or a lot of support, what do I do? So the hotline is really good because they can help you find adult day centers, senior centers, a lot of resources, transportation, respite care. And so if you call the helpline, they will give you lists of different resources that you will need. And that's what's wonderful about it is you call and tell them what you need. They have access to all of our databases and can give you that information. So
what's the website again?
The website is alz.org.
And the hotline number I have here is 800-272-3900.
That's
Again,
it. Put it on speed dial.
The 24/7 helpline is 800-272-3900. More information, alz.org. You know, you've been a part of this organization, Helping Volunteer, since 2011, you said?
2013.
2013.
Yep.
I gave you a couple extra because I
Thank
have passion.
Adding years to my life, Ross.
Well, you know, you're using them for good purposes.
That's true. I hope.
You know,
I like to think so.
It's a labor of love, giving your time and just seeing the growth of the organization, but also the community, how they're impacted with the assistance is awesome to see. But you've been a part of the Alzheimer's Walk for a long time. How have you seen that grown since 2013 till now?
Well, you and I off air were talking about COVID and how that was such a wild time. I mean, the walk downtown when I first was a part of it down at Liberty Park in 2013, I mean, I think I remember them saying they ordered 1,200 box lunches. And so fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit, you know, we had a virtual walk. We couldn't even gather in person. 2021, I know that looked a little different. And so it did the same thing to our walk that it did to a lot of things, you know, our numbers. We didn't have as many people involved. People were worried about getting together in crowds or groups. But now, you know, we're expecting on Saturday to have over 800 participants. And when you say that, we always have more, we always count about bottled water. So do we have enough bottled water, you know? So anyway,
event planning is always fun.
Yes, you never know what to plan for because unfortunately a lot of people are affected by this and they may see the billboard or they may see one of our flyers or they might hear this podcast and then a whole family might come out. And that's what we're hoping for because this event gives, and we'll talk more, just a sense of community because this disease can isolate the person with the disease and also the family because if you don't know where to turn or where to get help, you feel alone against this battle. You feel you're being attacked. Your family is attacked. So
I remember waking up, or not waking up, but it'd be 9, 10 at night. My mom put my grandmother to sleep and, you know, I would get up and I would hear her crying. It's tough. You know, even talking about it, I get that emotion because it puts me back in that time where I remember just seeing it. So it's cool to have organizations that, you know, are helping out with at least giving a number or website where you can go and get some information and some help. But, you know, this weekend, October 5th, 8 in the morning?
8:30.
Yeah,
you're close. Some of them do start at 8, Ross, so I don't blame you there.
most 5Ks always 8 in the morning.
8, yep.
I have not walked many 5Ks in my life.
Me neither.
But this weekend, what can we expect? You have some changes this year, some new things you're adding in. What can we expect from the Alzheimer's Walk here in Peoria this weekend?
Right. So don't come at 8, like Ross said. You're welcome if you do. But so at 8:30, the walk site opens down at the Gateway Building. You can register ahead of time for the event. It is free. Everything at the event is also free. So you can register online at act.alz.org/Peoria Walk. And it'll just ask you a series of a couple of questions, and then you'll be registered for walk day. If you would rather register that day, you're more than welcome. We will have registration right there when you walk up. But we have a lot of cool features, and what's cool about being a part of it so long is that I've seen it evolve and change. And, you know, we have an awesome planning committee. Shout out to them. We put together a lot of cool things for only an hour and a half of an event. So it's very quick. You can go out to breakfast or brunch with your family afterwards. But the togetherness that you're going to feel at the event is absolutely unmatched. So while you're there, you come up to the walk site. We're going to have, she's an author named Lauren Brown. She is going to have some Alzheimer's simulations going on. Some of the ICC students are going to be there.
Simulations?
Yeah, simulations. So what she does is she shows you how the disease progresses from your baseline where you're independent, and I think it's going to be a writing exercise. And then she has you do some series of things with your hands and writing that you will, after doing her simulations, the level of frustration that I felt was enough for me to just, I felt like I will never write a Christmas card or write a bill out after this, because you really feel what it's like to have the disease, because it affects your body in so many ways and your hand and eye coordination and things like that. So yeah, she'll put you through your paces with that, and it really is eye-opening. So I suggest you check that out if you attend.
I remember the doctor at one point gave my grandmother, it was as to keep practicing and using her cognitive skills, where it was you push this button, here's some rings in this water, and you have to get the colors on certain. It's like collect the rings.
Yeah,
here, the yellows
in the
go
water,
here.
like the bubbles. Yeah,
and she would have her oatmeal in the morning, and even as she was deteriorating with the disease, she would always go back to that. Always.
Oh, really?
And up until she had ended up leaving for Mexico, and that's where she passed away, because that was her. That's
that
where
was
she
her
wanted.
wishes.
Yeah,
she
wanted to go
be there.
back there. I think it's still at my mom's house. I still see it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, her room is like still untouched.
Oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful.
It's still. Hey, grab that from grandma's room. Like, we still call it that. Years, like 2009 till now, still call that. But I don't even know where I was going with that. I think I was talking.
You were talking about how she used that and how it helped
for
her,
training,
and
yeah.
she did it every day.
Are there any other methods of, I guess, what would be of therapy? Like
early interventions,
yes.
Maybe to prevent. Yeah. Well, we talk a lot about our health, the healthy brain, and doing a diet that's healthy fats and oils to keep the brain healthy. We talk about decreased smoking if you are a smoker. We talk about just protecting your head. That's one thing that I did see a lot at the hospital was, people would have an accident or something when they were younger, and unfortunately it would weaken that part of the brain. And then as they got older, they developed some form of dementia. So protecting your brain at all costs, even a fall when you're in your 20s or 30s, can come back and cause you an issue later on in life. So protect your brain at all costs.
This might be a random question, but just popped in my mind. Have there been links with concussions to Alzheimer's or dementia later in life?
I can't speak directly to the concussions, but I know that any injury to the brain, there is a link between that and Alzheimer's. I couldn't say, I don't know what the facts and figures are. Yeah. But I'm sure because you're getting a jar to your brain, and it's going to maybe create a weakened spot in there, and so it could lead to something like Alzheimer's.
I would love to talk to somebody about that and really hit the science behind that, because there's got to be something.
That would be good. Maybe a neurologist or someone.
Wink, cough, wink if you're listening.
Yes, if you know concussions. Yes.
But back to the walk this weekend, October 5th. At the Gateway Building at 8:30 in the morning.
8:30. Yep. We're going to have some fun stuff. I talked about the simulations. We also are going to have a caregiver corner where we're going to give some VIP treatment to those caregivers. So we definitely want them to stop by and feel the love from us there. We're going to have some superheroes. We're going to have Scoopy passing out ice cream chips. Scoopy, the new costume, by the way. Scoopy's coming up in the world. He's going to be cuter this year. We're going to have the Chick-fil-A cow. Nice. We're going to have some kids' activities. It's going to be a really good time. And one new thing this year, we're going to have Best Brew, espresso, and coffee parked out front. So, yeah. They didn't take your guys' spot in the front. We actually have some live music up there. So, We have Tyler Reevely playing up there. So we thought that and the radio playing might kind of have a little issue. But we still love you guys. But yeah, there's something for everybody. The coffee truck is the only thing that you would have to pay for at the event. Everything else, we have some really awesome sponsors that they're going to be set up to, and you can visit their table. And they have a lot of resources from home care to clinics to all kinds of things. So you can stop by and see what they have to offer, get some great photos. We also have a promise garden, which is really cool. So, yes. So our promise garden represents why you join the walk. We have different colors of our flowers. And if you're registered, you can stop by the promise garden. And if you have lost someone, you would pick up a purple flower. And then if you are a supporter of A World Without Alzheimer's, maybe you don't know someone, you would get orange. Our caregivers, beloved caregivers, they are yellow. And then if you're someone that has the disease, you would get blue. And so you have the opportunity to write your loved one's name on the flower. It's a spinning like a pinwheel. And then we have a garden that you can plant it in, or you can carry it with you on the walk. And it's really, we have that built into our ceremony. And I've done this so many years, Ross. I cry every single year. And the best part is that we have someone representing the white flower, which is hopefully the first person that will be cured. So it's just not a dry eye in the house. It's really, really pivotal.
One day. The way with science, we're at 41% slow regression.
Yep.
That's significant.
That's huge. Where will we be in 10 years? Where will we be?
Another passionate fool getting involved as well.
Yep. I'm here for it. I am here for it. I know that we will get there because, once you've seen what this disease can do to one person, but, working in healthcare, I saw it over and over and over again, and it just built my passion to want to do something on a bigger level to beat this disease. Yeah. So here I am.
From 2013 to 2024, we've addressed some of the emotional values of seeing the negative side on both sides of the coin, but you have to experience some positives. Just be able to see communities together. What are some moments in those years that put a big smile on your face?
Oh my gosh, I have a huge smile on my face right now. I have just seen families where maybe they had lost a loved one and they had signed up to join the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and we do welcome calls. So we call every person that signs up a team. And I called this gentleman, and he had just lost his wife that month. And I said, would you want to hold the purple flower for us? And the phone just went silent, and he came back on, and he was having such a hard time composing himself. And he said, I think this is exactly what I need. I've been having such a hard time. And so he got up there, and he had a lot of tears. His family had a lot of tears. But after the ceremony was over, he gave me the biggest hug, and he said, thank you for this opportunity. I think this is a step in healing. And I see everyone else holding the purple flower, and I know I'm not alone. So that was super cool. That was one of the coolest moments, I think. But working in healthcare with patients that have the disease, they would come in to visit or to see them, and you would find something that made them smile. And I know a lot of people talk about glimmers or shimmers. I'm not sure I think glimmers. And, just working with them every day, I would do anything that I could to find that glimmer for them, whether it was bringing in their favorite treat or doing their hair a certain way, playing a certain song. And sometimes their family would say, I didn't even know they like Janet Jackson, or, and it was like, I played this song and you should have saw them. They were just dancing like they were 15 years old. Yeah. And so I got a lot of glimmers working in healthcare. So there is some sadness, but also I encourage caregivers to find the silver linings, and I encourage them to share with me, what is your silver lining? What have you learned, and what have you learned through this journey, and what can you share with others so that they can try it with their loved ones?
Yeah. Glimmer could be anything. Now that I think about it, I guess my pops, in a way, that was his relationship with my grandmother, or he would always remind her, like, hey, give me $20. But like the fight she would have in those 20, 30 minutes Like she got brought back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was back to that day, back to that age.
And every day it would be the same routine. He'd come home from work. Hey, give me $20. And like you could see 20, 30 minutes of solid like, ah. But like I wonder how much that increased in, the fight a little bit. I wonder. I guess sometimes I think about the small things we do in our life. Like, join an organization, help plan events, but then you're able to provide that moment for that young man where he's able to get on his path of healing. Like we never really are sure about the small, minute things we do and the overall impact they could really have long term on individuals.
That is so true. That is so true. I think every little thing counts, and you never know the person who you're going to do something so little is going to appreciate that more than you. Something so little that you could have done for them. They appreciate it so much.
Something like showing up this Saturday, October 5th at the Gateway Building for the Alzheimer's Walk here in Peoria.
Yep, that would do it. That would do it
Two questions, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
So first one's going to be easy one. Second one's going to challenge you.
Ooh, I'm ready.
First question is, to get more information about the org itself or to participate in the walk this weekend, where can we go to call, website, anything?
Gotcha. So our website is great. It's alz.org. If you want to find out information about the nearest walk, so say you have family in Tampa and you want to know when their walk is or a walk across the country, you can go to alz.org/walk and you can find any walk across the United States. Our personal link for here in Peoria is act.alz.org/Peoria walk. And that will take you right to our walk page. You will see that we are at $171,000 of our $232,000 goal, and that we want you to join us. If you have a stake in this fight, we would love for you to come and join us. So, yeah. Right. And then our hotline number. Yeah, we can't forget that.
Someone's media trained.
That's right. 24/7 hotline. It's absolutely free, and they can help you with any question you have. If you're scared to call, just call and ask them what the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia is, and they will tell you. If you feel comfortable and you have some questions or have some challenges you want help with, go on and ask them. You will be glad that you did. And that number is 1-800-272-3900. There
you go. Now, the last question is, this podcast is loosely based off of a concept overseas called the human library. And that concept was created to help people better understand individual stories. Or you would sit at a table with one word to describe your journey, right? And you would sit down and have conversation, dialogue, back and forth, learning. So I created this podcast to help individuals understand the stories of Peoria. So your story, after it's all said and done, your life is complete, you did your mission on this planet. From people reading your book or listening to the podcast, what is the gold nugget you hope they take away from your life and your journey?
The golden nugget. So you want more than one word.
Oh, definitely more than one.
More than one word.
I can't bite their gimmick completely.
I sometimes you just don't know what your journey is going to be when you start out and you're trying to figure life out. You have no idea. But somehow along the way, the stars have aligned and I've become this Alzheimer's advocate. And I don't know all of the answers. I don't know the handbook to deal with every challenge that this disease throws. But when I get messages on Facebook from strangers or from people that I know that are brave enough to tell me that they think someone they know has this and what can they do, it absolutely makes my heart burst. And I just want to be someone that they can reach out to and I can help them. Just having someone that can be there with you to kind of guide you and give you that is what I look for. And I feel like working in healthcare, doing those glimmers for those that are living with the disease, that was just my life's blood. I just absolutely loved it. And I feel like I was very good at it. You know, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a kind heart. And it takes just a lot of selflessness. And that's what a lot of our caregivers have. And so I just want to help people, and I've somehow fallen into this Alzheimer's advocate role, and I just absolutely am passionate about it. It is dear to my heart. And I just want people to know that there's a person and now there's an organization that's been there, and we want you to come to us and we want to help.
All right. And to get the help and get more information, where can they go one more time?
Okay, they can go to the website, alz.org, or you can go to our helpline, give them a call, 1-800-272-3900, and you'll be glad that you did.
All right, that's been episode 60. We finally made it, the big 60. You're listening to the all-new KZ1023's Community Beat, hosted by me, Ross Martinez, and my guest this week, all the way from the Alzheimer's Association Illinois chapter. That's a mouthful. The walk manager of Peoria, Decatur, Knox, Warren, Walk to End Alzheimer's here in Peoria this weekend, October 5th, at the Gateway Building at 8:30 in the morning. That has been Amber Bowcott. Yeah! We don't have enough money for production, so, gotta make our own sounds.